privileges for the rest of the year.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the American people are being robbed in broad daylight. Big Oil is cashing in on their billion-dollar deal with Donald Trump from his campaign. The $1 billion to help Trump win. And in return, he'll rig the rules of the game in line with the pockets of the oil, gas, and coal industry 10 times over. So let's call Trump's energy agenda what it really is. Oil above all, not all of the above. Trump's billionaire friends promised to raise tens of millions of dollars, and in return, he promised he would deliver policies that will force working families to pay more, inhale more toxic air, reduce their kids' chances for a healthier future. And especially as the climate crisis continues to turbocharge extreme weather costing billions in damages, sky-high energy bills, we know that working families don't have any more to give to the oil, gas, and coal industries. Gas prices are up, electricity bills are up, home heating costs are up, and yet Donald Trump is going after the programs, the agencies, and the workers that help keep our air and water clean and create jobs. Meanwhile, Big Oil is raking in record profits, more than $172 billion in profits in 2023 alone. This administration isn't governing, it's groveling to Big Oil and big gas and big coal and the entire fossil fuel industry. Every dollar that goes into a billionaire's pocket is a dollar taken out of a working family's budget, money that should go towards food and rent and education. It is robbery in broad daylight from working families to create tax breaks for billionaires. And the Trump administration is trying to carry out their single biggest heist right now, attempting to illegally seize $20 billion from the congressionally authorized Climate Bank. As we speak, they're trying to loot the Climate Bank. This bank, formerly called the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, is based on my national climate bank legislation with Chris Van Hollen, and it's already at work for you, leveraging private dollars to cut energy bills for families, small businesses, improve resiliency against climate change fuel disasters, and create local economic opportunity. Trump and Musk are trying to get their hands on this money, your money, through whatever means necessary, even if that meant forcing Denise Chung, head of the criminal division of the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, to say that there had been a crime committed in the Climate Bank, which then would allow Trump to reclaim all the money in the Climate Bank. And what did Denise Chung say? She said she could not find a crime. They said, you're going to find a crime. She said she could not find a crime in the Climate Bank. And so she had to resign. She had to resign from being the head of the criminal division in the U.S. Attorney's Office right here in Washington, D.C., because she refused to follow the orders of her supervisor, who was getting instructions from the White House, because that was the only way they could fulfill the promise to oil, gas, and coal to kill the Climate Bank. They wanted to freeze that money in the absence of any crimes, any wrongdoing, which, surprise, just happened this week, just happened. Their goal is to take money away from families, take money from clean energy, take money from disadvantaged communities, and give it to the fossil fuel companies and special interests. So yes, they want to raid Medicaid, They want to raid education programs. They want to raid veterans' benefits. But they also, for the oil, gas, and coal industry, they got to kill the tax breaks for wind and solar. They've got to gut the climate bank, which is revolutionizing the way in which we generate energy, electricity in this country. That's not powerful leadership. It's political plunder, and working families are paying the price. Trump's farce of an energy emergency declaration creates a financial emergency for the American people. Instead of taking steps to lower energy costs for families, the Trump administration is actively driving up your energy costs by pushing for our energy, American energy, to get shipped overseas for higher profits and tying our energy market to the volatility of the global energy marketplace. From late 2021 through 2022, surging exports of our energy from the United States, liquefied natural gas, cost Americans $111 billion in higher energy prices for natural gas customers here in the United States. Consumers, homeowners, businesses. Why? Because big oil and big gas want to export our energy out of our country, send it overseas, because they get a bigger price on the open seas. That's what it's all about. And a recent study from the Department of Energy found that it's extremely likely LNG exports will lead to more sticker shock for Americans, an average increase of over $120 per year, still coming. Again, while oil executives, natural gas executives cash in on even bigger paydays. So what's the Trump plan? Turn consumers in America upside down and shake money out of their pockets for profits for the oil and gas industry. And what happens? Prices go higher for consumers here. That's how they make their money. They're doing it hand in glove with the Trump administration. This is not an energy emergency. This is a Trump energy tax on the American people. An energy tax which, to be clear, is only growing in severity as Trump cuts off funding for clean energy projects, fires hardworking government employees, imposes tariffs, all of which will make electricity even more expensive for American businesses, for American consumers. It's a deliberate strategy to make sure working families stay dependent on a damaging fuel source that makes a handful of billionaires richer and richer and richer by the day. But make no mistake, they're not attacking us because they're winning. The fossil fuel industry is backing Donald Trump because they know they're losing. They're losing, despite Trump's attempts to kill the green revolution. The clean energy boom is happening all across our country. The fossil fuel industry is terrified because they know that wind and solar are the future. Last year, get this number. Are you ready? This is why they're petrified. This is why they're scared. 90% of all new electricity generation capacity brought online in the United States was renewable. 10% natural gas, 90% renewable last year. Why do they have to kill the tax breaks? Why do they have to kill the climate bank? You do 90% renewables every year for the next 10 years, then it drives right at the heart of the business model of the natural gas and coal and oil industries in our country. That's why they need to loot the climate bank. That's why they need to kill the tax breaks for wind and solar, all electric vehicles in our country. Onshore wind and solar power were the cheapest megawatts on the grid last year, 2024, from construction to operation. And the big oil bosses know that if given the choice, Americans will pick the cheapest, cleanest energy source every single time. So they are killing your choice. They're not letting you pick which energy source you want. Nearly 80% of clean energy investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, also known as the biggest climate bill in world history, but 80% of the energy investments have gone to Republican districts, creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs just in 2.5 years. Think about that. Trump is actively working to destroy economic growth and jobs in the very places that got him elected. 80% of the jobs are in red states. Think about that. But that's the payback for the oil, gas, and coal industry for raising the money for him last year. We're talking about electricians installing solar panels, construction workers building wind turbines, engineers designing the next generation of battery storage. All of these are good-paying, family-sustaining jobs that are helping to build America's future. And yet, Trump and his enablers want to tear it all down just to keep their fossil fuel cronies happy, just to keep the greenhouse gas emitters happy, just to make sure there is no competition. They don't believe in competition. This should be Darwinian paranoia-inducing competition. What oil, gas, and coal is extracted from this administration is killing the competition. It's killing them in the marketplace. Adam Smith was spinning in his grave thinking about this cut. He had a big smile on his face last year, Adam Smith. The market's finally working. We finally have incentives for the competition. But that had to be killed. That had to be killed. And if that wasn't enough, Trump was attacking the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the agency that warns and helps protect us against hurricanes and floods and wildfires. Why? Because it gets in the way of his fossil fuel allies' ability to pollute and to profit without consequence. Just last year, get this number, disasters supercharged by climate change cost the United States more than $500 billion. Hurricane Milton and Helene, that cost $300 billion of damage. The fires in LA, $200 billion. 3 incidents, $500 billion worth of damage. 3, that's all. Half of the defense budget of the United States. What are they doing? They're taking down the defense in the future against superstorms. They're going to take it down. They're going to ravage homeowners, businesses across our country. Insurance rates are going to skyrocket. It's going to have a devastating impact upon our country. We're not even through the month of February, and already in Los Angeles and other places, we can see the storms, we can see the floods, we can see the damage. So this is absolutely unbelievable what is happening. Families forced from their homes, businesses wiped out, entire communities devastated. And instead of preparing for the future, Trump is making sure it gets worse. Imagine standing in the wreckage of a hurricane-ravaged neighborhood with nothing but rubble left of your home and knowing that your president right now is actively choosing to make future disasters worse and fire the workers that would help you rebuild. That is the cruelty of his administration. It's become a wholly owned subsidiary of the oil, gas, and coal industry and giving them a permission slip to wreak havoc on every other American. At every turn, this administration is picking fossil fuel billionaires over working people. And they aren't even hiding it. Since April of last year, after Trump sat down with the big oil executives and asked for the $1 billion campaign check, these executives' wealth has ballooned by more than $40 billion in 1 year. $40 billion more in the wealth of those individuals, while families across the country wonder how they'll pay their heating bills. Trump's fossil fuel donors are making a fortune. And let's not forget the bigger picture. Our global standing is on the line. While we stall and we let fossil fuel industry dictate our energy policy, China is surging ahead. China is saying, thank you, Trump administration. Thank you for letting us take over the renewable energy industry. They're investing in clean energy, in electric vehicles, in battery storage, and all the industries that will define the 21st century economy. And what is Trump doing? Kneecapping our ability to compete. He is locking us into outdated, expensive, and polluting energy systems while the rest of the world moves forward without us. You can't be an isolationist when it comes to climate change. It's global warming. This isn't just about energy policy. This is about what kind of country we want to be. Will we be the leader or the laggard? Do we want to be a country that builds, innovates, and transforms? Or do we want to be a country that allows that we cling to the past and knowingly raise costs on American families that pollute the air we breathe in order to line the pockets of the ultra-wealthy? The choice is ours. Trump and his fossil fuel friends want you to believe that you don't have a choice, that you have to accept higher prices, dirtier air, polluted water, and an onslaught of hurricanes and fires brought on by a worsening climate crisis that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, denies even exists, calling it a Chinese hoax. It's no hoax. 3 events, $500 billion worth of damage. And I'm not even mentioning all the other damage last year and early this year. But they're wrong. People want lower bills, not higher bills for Exxon. Our communities deserve good-paying jobs, not another handout to Chevron. It's not drill, baby, drill. It's plug in, baby, plug in. That's what this generation of young people want. Plug in to the electric revolution. Plug in to the non-polluting future. And we have a choice. We can fight for lower costs, good jobs, and a livable future. We can invest in the industries of tomorrow instead of getting locked into the polluting past. We can stop exporting American fossil fuels abroad and driving up our own prices for our own consumers here in America. We can ban fossil fuel executives and lobbyists from being able to use our energy-related agencies for their own personal pocketbooks, or as I call for in my Big Oil from the Cabinet Act, that they can't work. They can't work for the Energy Department. They can't be inside taking over the agenda. We can strengthen the low-income heating and cooling relief program so that the poorest Americans don't have to put so much of their paycheck towards heating and cooling. We can safeguard energy efficiency standards for appliances so that people pay less on their bills. We can do that. We can remove the tax loopholes that prevent oil and gas companies from paying their fair share. We're talking about tax breaks for oil companies that have been on the books for 100 years. They call creating a climate bank socialism. What do you call 100 years of tax breaks for the oil, gas, and coal industry? That's socialism. That's allowing for a non-competitive marketplace so that the new technologies, the clean technologies, solar and wind, electric battery technologies, they can't be deployed. We can remove those tax breaks. That's what we should be debating here. But at a minimum, we can't take away the competition. They're monopolists. They're oligopolists. That's all it is. They want to stifle new technology. They don't have any new ideas except making themselves rich. If Republicans are here tonight looking for revenue to pay for the things that they want to pay for, let's start with ending those tax breaks now and having oil companies finally pay their fair share. And ultimately, we can stand up to the corporate greed that is bleeding working families dry and demand a future where energy policy serves the people, not just the powerful. And that's exactly what we're going to do, because the clean energy revolution isn't just coming, it's already here. And it's scaring the living daylights out of the oil, gas, and coal industry. They are petrified. It's happening in red states, 80%, and blue states. It's lowering costs, creating jobs, making communities stronger. No amount of corruption, no amount of grift, no amount of fossil fuel money is going to stop it. And we're not going to back down. And we will not allow the Trump administration to sell out the American people, especially young people. We're not going to allow their future to get sold out. We're not going to surrender the way the oil, gas, and coal industry want us to surrender, because this is not about the highest bidder who can loot the programs like the National Climate Bank to pay for their billionaire tax breaks. We will fight for the workers building America's clean energy future. We will fight for all families, ensuring they have lower energy bills, cleaner air, and we will fight for a livable future, not just for ourselves, but for all coming children and grandchildren right now. This is not just a political fight, it's a moral fight. This is about justice, this is about fairness, this is about the very future of our country. We cannot back down now. This is the time, this is the place. We must wage this battle on behalf of the coming generations, or else the devastation will become catastrophically unimaginable. So let's have this fight this year about our future. I think that's the least we owe to young people in our country. And I yield back.
Chair recognizes the senator from South Carolina.
Thank you. I have two unanimous consent requests. Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that for the